Pope Leo taking on the rapidly advancing world of AI, laying out a pretty stark warning that technology of its kind is fueling world conflicts. He spoke about his concerns just moments ago from the Vatican.
Artificial intelligence already touches many areas of our lives and affects decisions that shape human coexistence. It is also dramatically changing how war is waged. Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed.
So this is Pope Leo's first encyclical, a theological document that goes out to all bishops in the church. Interestingly, the 235-page document was written with the help of one of the co-founders of Anthropic, the AI company in a legal dispute with the Trump administration over the use of its technology in military and defense operations.
Now, CNN's Christopher Lamb following this story for us from Rome and joining me now. Firstly, tell us why the Pope has chosen this issue and why now?
Well, Becky, he's been concerned about the development of AI really since the beginning of his pontificate, and he does believe that the Church has a role to play in essentially trying to offer a more ethical development of this technology and to offer some theological input. The Pope saying that he says the Church is not offering scientific or technical solutions, but says it has some wisdom to offer in the development of this very important technology, which is changing everyone's lives. And I spoke to Chris Oller earlier after the presentation, and he said that he welcomes the Pope's intervention because the development of AI is not just a scientific question, it's also one that raises big theological and philosophical ones. And so I think that's why Pope Leo really feels the need to intervene in this debate, and not just to be a voice on the sidelines, but to try and really shape how AI is developed, hence him having a co-founder of Anthropic, Chris Oller, on the platform with him.
Well, Maria Ceausescu is the International Policy Director at Stanford University's Cyber Policy Center. She joins us live from Haarlem in the Netherlands. It's good to have you. Thank you. We just heard from the Pope there saying that AI needs to be disarmed. Obviously, he's referring to its ever-increasing use in warfare. I do wonder whether he's a little late to the party with this and whether the train hasn't already left the station.
Well, I mean, yes, a lot of developments have raced ahead, especially between a handful of big players, companies, countries that are, risking a race to the bottom in their eagerness to think about their own pole position instead of thinking about people all around the world. And I think in that sense, the voice of the Pope here, coming from a moral leadership perspective, putting people at the heart of the consideration, not billionaires, not technology, not state power, is crucial.
It's interesting that you say, that he doesn't want the kind of big tech sort of owning this and controlling this. He's making a point of working with experts from the industry, including one of the biggest, Anthropic, the CEO, Chris Oller, at the Vatican today. Have a listen to some of what he had to say.
Some might believe that matters of AI are best handled by computer scientists like myself. They are mistaken. The questions raised by AI are bigger than the AI research community, not just in their implications, but also in their nature.
And I wonder what some of the essential questions that he's referring to there are, in your experience.
Well, I can't speak for anyone representing an AI company, but just from my own point of view, when you look at the implications of AI, there are so many trade-offs to be made, impacting civil liberties like the right to privacy or non-discrimination, press freedom, access to information, against notions of national security, where income is going to be generated and who stands to benefit from that income generation. We have a whole lot of concern on the part of creators, people in the cultural sector, but think also about communities that are less well represented than the majority of voices and faces that data sets are trained on to develop AI models. So I think a lot of the core trade-offs impact society writ large. Therefore, I always make the case for regulation and a rule of law-based approach that binds the abuse of power by government, but also by tech companies. And it's right for Chris to point to the fact that computer scientists, corporate actors, single governments cannot make these decisions on their own. It's really important that the representation of people in the widest sense is feeding into these decisions. And so that's how I hear his remarks.
And let's remind ourselves that the Department of Defense requested unrestricted access to Anthropic's AI models for what they described as sort of any purpose. Anthropic declining, seeking guarantees that their technology would not be used in autonomous weapons or for domestic mass surveillance. So I'm just reminding our viewers, because that sets the context for why perhaps the CEO of Anthropic was there at the Vatican today. It appears, at least, that he and the Pope seem to share the same sort of narrative here. In your opinion, does AI have any place in warfare? And if so, how should it or could it be used effectively and humanely?
Well, I think the core is that when AI or other technologies are used, when states engage in conflict, that they do so on the basis of a mandate that comes from the people, and also on the basis of accountability that comes from the people. And I think the real risk that AI empowered warfare and even cyber war writ large holds is that it happens in secret, without a mandate, without accountability, without any kind of sense of what we can learn, what kind of decisions were made. I mean, look at the genocide in Gaza. And the fact that the promise is that AI will lead to more precise bombardments and attacks. But if you look at the massive amount of civilian casualties, those stories on the ground tell a different reality. And so I think it's important that we have independent verification of where AI can help save lives, be more precise, inform decisions, but to always stay with this public mandate and public accountability, because warfare is ultimately a decision by people and should never be outsourced for private or other kinds of interests that really, erode the basis for which we have international law in the first place.
I want to bring in CNN Vatican analyst Katie Pregine McGrady. So I think the AI portion is interesting, but what are your biggest takeaways from this encyclical?
Well, an encyclical is a letter. It's this circular, essentially, that is sent out to people of goodwill and people of faith. So the first thing that really stood out to me was that the Holy Father is making this appeal to the world as a pastor and as a shepherd, and he wants everybody to read it. The people who are coding AI, the people who are using it, and the people who are completely and totally unaware of what it's actually doing in our day-to-day lives. But he doesn't come at it as a AI bad or humans better. He comes at it as a humans are magnificent and we're called to more. The desire to create AI clearly indicates we think and value transhumanism, post-humanism type things. And what we really should do, especially as people of faith, is pursue relationship with God, work towards the common good, recognize the goodness of all, and not allow AI to overtake us. So it's hefty, it's deep, it's quite beautiful.
The Pope, as part of it, calling for rigorous ethical constraints on AI. And I think some might look at the Pope and say, well, he's commenting on something that's so modern, that's so new, almost in the sense that you would talk about on a podcast or a show like this, as opposed to what I think people typically think of the Catholic faith is like deep-rooted ideals that have existed for centuries. And I just wonder for you, just based on how you have followed the Vatican and beyond, How unique is it, this tone, this specificity of Catholic ideals, of what Pope Leo's ideals want to be? Is it? How I guess the word I'm trying to say is, how unique is this dynamic right now?
So I'm happy to report that while it's certainly significant, popes have been doing this for a really long time. Since 1891, in fact, his namesake, Leo XIII, wrote Rerum Novarum, which is also a very hefty document that was addressing the revolution of that particular moment at the turn of the century, the Industrial Revolution, and how was it impacting humanity. And now, in this age of AI, what are we doing to safeguard the human person? And so Pope Leo is really, he's in the line of his predecessors. It's quite cool. I'm not sure that we've ever seen an encyclical launch with a trailer, but this morning they launched it with a 4-minute video that brought us through the golden thread of all the popes and how they've addressed the social doctrine of the church, how they've met the moment the world presents to remind us, here's our pastoral approach, here's a prophetic voice in the world. What the Holy Father is doing is saying AI, technology, is not morally neutral. And therefore the church stands at the ready to respond and to invite a deeper consideration. And it was huge that he had the Anthropic co-founder just a few seats away from him and said, I take up your invitation to engage with Silicon Valley. And I hope Silicon Valley takes up our challenge to consider humanity in the way this intelligence is being crafted beyond our understanding. Pope Leo shows a mastery of the topic. He's not old man yells at cloud. He's engaged Holy Father who wants to be a prophet and a pastor to the world.